There are two foremost reasons why a classical or liberal arts education differs from a more typical modern education. The first reason is that a classical or liberal arts education tends to focus on the reading of primary text, whereas a more modern education that we might find in the universities or school systems around America tends to focus on textbooks or secondary or third-hand text, where we're not reading the original ideas or works of the author, but we're getting them from people who have already studied them, have written secondary books about them, or secondary articles in other publications. In the liberal arts or a classical scheme, the idea is to teach and engage with the primary text of a certain subject. So for instance, in a classical or liberal arts education, instead of reading a textbook about Plato's Republic, say in a class on philosophy, those in a classical or liberal arts education would read the book itself. This differs very much from a more modern or typical education in which students taking any given class will likely read out of a textbook to understand the ideas that the author was trying to convey. Now, the second reason, and the reason why this is done, the second reason supports the first reason, which is that in a classical education or liberal arts education, unlike a more modern or typical education, the idea is to make scholars out of the students that are partaking in a class. Rather, in a more modern or typical education, the idea is to take coursework that will eventually lead to you obtaining a degree, which will likely give you more professional or career capabilities. So in a classical or liberal arts education, the focus is mainly on reading, comprehension, and writing. And for that, we read primary text. Also, the objective with the classical liberal arts education is to make scholars that will actually eventually write the secondary information. The classical liberal arts education is set up in such a way that those students that are reading the primary text are being groomed in order to write the secondary text on the primary text of information. So they will be the ones to write the textbooks, the manuals, the study guides, the curriculums, etc. Of course, if they so choose, that's the career path they want to stay in. But that is the objective and trajectory of the classical education. Not only does it prepare the student to be a scholar and a writer in a certain area of study, or have a good understanding of the humanities writ large, there's also an emphasis in being able to develop critical thinking skills. And this is another reason why the classical or liberal arts education very much differs from a more typical modern education. And that is, again, that pedagogy is more set up towards writing and critical thinking, not memorization or multiple choice. So you're not being educated to memorize the things that were said in Plato's Republic, but you're being taught to reckon with the things that were said in Plato's Republic and how it's informed the tradition of Western culture and philosophy, rather than to just memorize random facts about the nature of the text. That, again, is part and parcel what distinguishes a liberal arts or classical education against a modern one.